I have to say the first 6 months were terrible. And the pressure was immense, and I don't know if that was pressure from me. Most of it probably was, but it did feel like it was pressure from external sources as well. And I just thought, what if I can't make this work? What on earth am I going to do? Like, that would be the end of the world.
Okay, hello, welcome. My name's Joe Morrison, and today we're really fortunate to have Jemima Gray from Cotswold Box Clothing come and join us today and share her lived experience as an entrepreneur and share some of that advice and some of those insights based on doing it the hard way, as we always do when we start a business. So welcome, Jemima. Thank you very much for taking the time to come and join us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Tell us about Cotswold Box. Tell us about your business.
Yeah, so Cotswold Box started 3 years ago when I was at uni doing a master's, and it was one of those things I sort of thought, oh, why not? Let's just give it a go. And yeah, did it alongside uni for a few months, and then went into a full-time job in law. So they're very different. So Cotswold Box is obviously clothing, so I sort of focused on country casual wear, a bit like sort of Jack Wills used to be kind of idea. And yeah, and I left my job last year. It's going really well. It's really busy. And yeah, sort of learning lots along the way.
Okay, great, thank you. And can you share with us about how when you originally started Cotswold Box, you were still working in a full-time role at the time. So how did you develop your business on the side, whilst doing your full-time job at the same time?
Yeah, I was actually quite lucky. So when I started the business, I was at uni. So it was almost worth trying to do a master's degree and start a business. But I was really lucky. It was during COVID, so I was actually living at my parents' house at home. So the financial side was more me, which was really helpful. Anyway, and then I finished my degree and had about 3 months between my degree and starting my job. So in those 3 months, I really felt like I kind of got the business to a slight place where, the orders were all could be packed by themselves, and I didn't have to do any of the sort of physical side that would really have to take up time that way. So when I started my job, it did definitely take a back seat, and I think at that point as well, I didn't know that it was really what I wanted to do, because it was way too early to tell, and it was sort of almost a uni project really, rather than me thinking, oh, this could actually be a business that I could live off and do as a full-time job. So it did sort of take a step back, but I kept carrying it on, sort of at weekends, in the evenings, at work quite a lot as well. I shouldn't say that, but definitely in between meetings and stuff, if I had a few spare half an hour's lunch times and things as well, I could do bits and pieces. And definitely at the beginning, I still find that now, like, what you put in, you get out. So I wasn't really putting in huge amounts, but I feel like you make your own work. So actually, I didn't feel like I had too much to do, whereas now I feel like I have endless amounts to do, but I'm also making that myself. So yeah, so it kind of just ticked along really. And I think it was only until the second year of the business, which was about 6 months into my job, I started working with my first sort of business advisor, and that was when I thought, actually, this could be really exciting, and this could be something that I could do potentially full-time at some point. And then it took probably another year from then until I was happy to go, okay, this is when I think I need to sort of leave and run it full-time. So yeah, I definitely think that was the best decision I could have done, is stayed in my job almost for as long as I could. And I even hired my first sort of part-time assistant before I left my job, because I didn't want to leave. Like, I really enjoyed my job as well, which really helped. So yeah, I think that was probably the best way of doing it for me.
Great, thank you for sharing that. And just tell us a little bit about, I mean, you've mentioned a few people already, but some of those external perspectives that you've had in the early days, and how that helped you find the right path for you.
I think from day one, it was very much split. So it was very much like when I started the business, everyone was like, oh, great idea, like, cool, that would be fun. But I think, again, it was like, as I saw it as well, it was just a bit of fun, a bit of a hobby. And then it started getting a bit more serious in the second year, and that was when there was that sort of divide of, for instance, my dad, who also works in law, he was like, oh, you've got a great career ahead of you, and in a great firm. And then they offered me a job in the London office. I was in Cheltenham, and that was when I sort of had to decide. So my dad was going, yeah, you should totally take it and move to London and do that. And then my mum, on the other hand, is very entrepreneurial. She's got 2 businesses herself, and she was like, if you do that, Cotswold Fox will basically drop off. And she'd be absolutely right, like absolutely would. So there was definitely a split, and I did think with the London job, I was so close to taking it. But the good thing is that I sort of had a couple of weeks in which to decide whether or not to make that jump. And actually, I'm so glad, because I'm very impulsive. So if they'd have asked me on the spot, I would have gone yes. But because I had that period of time, it made me stop and think and talk to people like my mum and my dad and my business advisor and friends who are in the corporate world in London already who actually didn't enjoy it. So, thank goodness I had those 2 weeks, because if I hadn't, I think it'd be a very different story.
Right. It's really interesting to see how you had that, both sides, from your parents. I mean, 'cause as you say, you had a really, great, employed career path in law.
Yeah.
They're ready for you to take. And, you got one advice from, your father's got experience there, so he can see the benefits of that. And then your mother's more entrepreneurial and could see the other opportunity for you. What do you think was the thing that kind of, after you considered it for those 2 weeks, what was the thing that kind of flipped it for you to pursue business?
I love everything that's shiny and new and different. So I think them sort of this opportunity in London for me was, I live in Cheltenham, so I was like, oh, perfect, London, cool, like new places, new opportunity, complete change. I love everything to do with that. So for me, that really got me, that really grabbed me. And then because I had that 2 weeks, I thought, the logical side kicked in, and actually I thought, okay, it might be cool for a year, but then I'll get another year down the line, I'll have no business because I've gone full-time into this very intense role. And then what am I going to do if I stop enjoying it? And actually, generally, you do hear that people don't enjoy their jobs. So I thought, oh gosh, actually, long term, I don't think this would be a great idea. And also, I've got a great life here in Cheltenham. At that point, I just bought a house here as well. I had an amazing group of friends. It was only an hour away from my parents, who I'm very close with. And I've got a great life here. So I actually, that whole thing sort of, I weighed it up, pros and cons, and spoke to my parents, who know me best. And although Dad was like, yeah, I think you should do it, he was also like, actually, I'm not sure London will be for you. And my mum, who knows me very well, basically said, you'll hate it. But they were both very, like, neither of them were telling me what to do, because for me that doesn't work. I'm very stubborn. If someone tells me what to do, I'll do the opposite. So it sort of took me that 2 weeks to weigh up pros and cons, actually look at my life, and also I thought about moving to London, giving it a business, and I felt really, really sad. And I hadn't even done it yet, so I thought about how would I feel if I did do all of that and completely change my life. And I felt totally heartbroken, so I was like, okay, it's not the right thing to do.
It's interesting you talk about your kind of lifestyle, the motivations around that kind of those wider benefits. And that's a very common thing I find with business owners, is that the business is an enabler to give them those kind of wider benefits. It's not just about making the money. Yeah,
no, it's not at all. I think, well, funny, at the moment all I do is work, but I absolutely love it. I get to go to all these big events that I've been going to anyway, just for fun. So I get to go to Burley Horse Trials, Badminton, Blenheim, all these massive events that all my friends go to, and I've been going to for years, or I've ridden there on my horses. So it's the best job in the world, and I absolutely love it. And I have full freedom, although all I do is work, but it's my choice to do that. So I have full freedom. If we want to go and do a photo shoot abroad, we can go and do that, as long as it's sensible and we've got the budget to do it. It's just so exciting. I don't think I've ever actually done anything so exciting in my life, and it just keeps getting more exciting. There's never a dull day, because there's always something new going on or new people to talk to. Yeah, and every day you learn as well, which I think is just the most important thing. So if I'm not making progress, I won't do something.
And tell us, Jemima, about that moment when you were making the transition. So you were moving from your full-time role into going full steam ahead with the business full time. Like, what kind of things did you do that enabled you to make that transition?
I have to say the first 6 months were terrible. They really were awful, and I didn't enjoy it either. I was working on the business thinking, and the pressure was immense, and I don't know if that was pressure from me, most of it probably was, but it did feel like it was pressure from external sources as well. And I just thought, God, if I can't make this work, what on earth am I going to do? Like, that would be the end of the world. And it was also, I did really enjoy my job, so going from the community of the office, there were like 200 people in that office, and lots of them are really, really good friends. So going from that to working by myself was very, very hard. And I wasn't happy actually for the first 6 months. And I definitely thought at one point I was like, you know what, I'll do the business full time for a year and then I'll sell it because I absolutely can't do this. Anyway, and it got to a point after about 6 months where I had a friend move in with me because I was living on my own, and a friend moved in. That made a lot of difference. For some reason, I suppose it's just having that company in the evenings when you don't have any plans with friends or when you're just working. You're not sitting there by yourself. I also have a group of really, really good friends now who all run businesses. So we all work together quite often. There's that community there. We chat every day. It doesn't feel like you're on your own anymore, which is really, really important. I'd say that was the thing I struggled with the most, because I really enjoy being surrounded by friends and people all the time, and I just wasn't doing that. So I sort of had to make that happen myself, which made it so much better. I also got a new advisor on board because I went through a period of probably about 3 months where I didn't have an advisor, and that really was difficult as well. So I got this new advisor on board. He was amazing. He is amazing. I still work with him. He gives me so much direction. He's always at the end of the phone. We meet once a week, which actually comes around incredibly quickly, especially when our meetings are very, very intense. I feel like we've just sort of cleared everything from the last week and then we're meeting again. So that is really brilliant as well. I'd say those were like the main things, is getting that support system in place, whether that's business support or just good friends who you can work with and bounce ideas off. That for me is key.
It's such an important point, because the early days are always really difficult. And as you say, particularly if you're a solo founder, it's a very lonely experience. You're making every decision yourself. You've got all the pressure on your shoulders. So I think that's great. It's great that you've been able to draw on, friends, peers, professional advisors. Sounds like it made a really big difference for you in those days. What would you say was the thing? So the first 6 months were really tough. What was it that helped you sort of personally have that resilience to push through it? And when did you kind of reach a point where you feel, actually, I can continue this. I'm not going to sell it after a year?
I honestly don't know. I think I just thought, I don't want to give in. And also I thought, logically it would be better, it would get better, because it was over the winter, it was just after Christmas, and January, February, March, April to a point are always super quiet. There's never really anything that interesting going on. Now this year coming up, so 25, I've totally changed that, so we're absolutely rammed, so that would be great. But I've sort of had to learn that the hard way, and I just thought, our first big show was in May, which was Badminton Horse Trials, and I just thought, I'll get to that, and that will make it all worthwhile. And to a point, that was weirdly kind of true. And it just sort of, I don't know, I think a lot of things came together at once. It was Badminton Horse Trials, sales picked up, we had new product launches, we had our first big studio shoot, which was really exciting. I started working with my new advisor, and we got the lease for our first shop. That kind of all happened at once. And then I took on a marketing assistant who is one of my best friends, and she's brilliant. So that made a huge difference. And then the weather got better. So I think everything just combined. Suddenly it all just came together, and then since then, so that was 5 months ago, roughly, everything has changed. Like, it's just amazing. Now I couldn't love it more. So it's so weird how quickly things change in such a short amount of time.
I maintain there's nothing more exciting with your business than when you start to build momentum, and you know in your mind when you've got those critical sales or whatever the kind of moment is, there's nothing more rewarding than that. Just tell me briefly, Jemima, about when you've worked with professional coaches or mentors or advisors, like what are the particular bits that are most valuable from their support?
It's a funny one. I was actually talking to one of my sort of advisors this morning, and he sort of said to me, come to me with any questions. But actually, I would love for you to come to me and say, are you doing this? Because you don't know what you don't know. I've only been in this business for 3 years. Before that, I was at uni. Like, I'm very, very new to it. So there is definitely, there needs to be give and take from both sides. But I quite like being told what to do and said, have you done this idea? Do you know this person? Have you worked on this? Like, that to me gives me really good structure and purpose. So I think that's very important. I think also the fact that you get on is absolutely critical, because no matter how good someone is, if you work with them closely most days and you don't particularly get on with them personally, it's just going to be a bit miserable. So yeah, making sure that your personalities align is very important, but also keeping that distinct relationship between they're not just a friend, they are your advisor and you are paying them, and this is the structure and this is what you want to get out of the sessions. I think that's also very important, so it doesn't get too relaxed and too sort of blasé.
I think that's a great thought around, you don't know what you don't know. But go to the people who do know or have been there or have got the perspective and mine them for information and ideas. That's what you could be doing. It's great, a great thought. And Jemima, tell me about outsourcing parts of the business that you don't enjoy very much, or they're not your passion, or they might not be your strengths. A lot of business owners really struggle with this area. So where do you sit with this, and what have you done?
So the first thing I outsourced was operations and customer service. And I did that about this time last year. So I was just about to leave my job about 2 months before, and I got in Eleanor, who still helps me today, and she's amazing. And she does customer service and operations between us and the warehouse, like order discrepancies, packing orders, sending all that info across and getting it all back. So that was the first thing I outsourced, because I thought, you know what, I'm very impatient, which is terrible. So quite often with these little queries that can be sorted instantly, I'm just thinking, oh God, I don't have time for that. And she's amazing because she's the opposite. So I totally understand my weaknesses. And Eleanor is very much the opposite personality to me, so she is fantastic at that. I would be awful. I think equally we've outsourced our paid ads, so we've outsourced Meta ads and Google ads. Although I probably could do Meta, I'm not sure about Google at all. It's not my strength, and actually more for peace of mind, I'd rather get an agency who I know and trust and work with for a while to do that for me, and then we can just catch up every couple of weeks and they can just send reports and we can go back and forth with ideas, rather than me having to check on it every day and think, God, I'm spending X amount per month on this. Is it worth it for me? Am I spending it in the right way? And it's the time frame as well. Like, I don't have enough capacity for that. Same with Google Ads. And I've also, as well, just got a marketing assistant on board who is brilliant, and she does my email marketing. So she works with Klaviyo to do our campaigns and our automated emails. Again, something I could do, but I don't enjoy it, and I'm not hugely great on attention to detail. So if my attention's too split, which as a founder it always is, I will miss things and I will just think, oh, it looks fine, when it actually doesn't look fine. So she's brilliant on sort of attention to detail, really getting everything right, things that I would just be very blasé about and be like, oh, it's fine, whatever, when it's not. And I've also outsourced our operations. So I've got a brilliant girl who does warehouse, so she does orders, she does wholesale, she reps for events, she contacts for events. She does stock take, all of that physical side of things. Again, one, I just don't have time for it, and also it's not something I enjoy. It's not where my strengths are. So yeah, and I think I will probably have to get someone on board full time quite soon. And I think this time, the next person, I'd love for them to actually have more knowledge than I do and be able to almost help lead with me, because at the moment it's very much me delegating to other people, which is fine. But I'd love someone to be like, look, this is a thing we haven't done, or spot things that I can't see because of my lack of experience or if it's not my strength. So I think, yeah, it's sort of got to the point now where I'd love to bring someone in who's sort of more, sorry, I was just plugging this computer in, more sort of can lead with me rather than me just saying, can you do this?
Well done, because it takes some people many years to get to that point where they're actually, because as business owners, we do tend to be control freaks. And so we do kind of like to keep an eye on everything. But of course, as you say, we're not good at everything. It's good insight on yourself and self-awareness to know this is where I'm great, this is where I'm not. And I always say to people, like, you need to be in the part of your business where you're really great and at your best. You don't want to be spending all your time and energy on stuff that ultimately you don't really like. And also, you know, as you said about team building, you want to bring in people who are better than you in different areas, and that's a great way to proceed. Thank you so much, Jemima, for sharing your story. You've gone remarkably far in a very short space of time. I mean, for all this to come out from a uni project is just like unbelievable. What a journey. Tell us what's going on at the moment. What's happening with your business now? What do you want people to know about?
So we've just launched for Autumn Winter 24, which is very exciting. So we're in September now, so that will carry on. We're doing sort of mini launches every couple of weeks until the beginning of November. We've got a event this week. We're going to Blenheim Horse Trials. We're going to Horse Video Show events first week of October. And then we're into Black Friday, Christmas, lots of new products coming. There's just the next 3 months are just back to back, but it's very exciting. So yeah, lots of new things on the website, lots of big events coming up, and yeah, lots of prepping for Christmas as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Keep up the energy. Keep doing it. Keep doing what you're doing. This conversation is all about passing on the knowledge to those who are following behind us, and they can help learn from our kind of lived experience. So thank you so much for sharing, Jemima. We're really pleased to have you on today. For business owners, we've got more content on reboot.com. So visit us there if you're looking for more support. But again, just thanks a lot, Jemima, and have a great day. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you very much.